You're listening to Sips of Sanity, your toolkit for emotional and intuitive intelligence, or what we like to call the dirty work. Let's do it.
Hello, patrons. And hello, Callie.
Hi.
So at the very end of the first show, you left off with a wonderful point about how you asked parents to consider how they keep their children busy. And I want to start with that today because that is the topic of our second show in the group on loneliness about busyness.
Yeah. Is a form of loneliness.
You got
okay,
it.
Cool. Yeah, because what the free group doesn't get is why we're digging into this and the ways it's going to play out in your life, right? Mm-hmm. And busyness is definitely one of those things that is something that can keep you from being connected.
Mm-hmm. So you were talking about, you asked parents to consider how busy they were trying to keep their children, and the fact that this can actually be the conditioning then that children receive. That is the silent message that you are giving them. Don't risk being rejected if you attempt connection to somebody. Don't bother. Just get busy.
Oh, interesting. You're diving into a really specific kind of busyness because that's not the only message that you're giving people when you keep them busy, just so people are clear, right?
Right.
So let's elaborate on that because, if you're staying busy and you're constantly flitting from one thing to the next, then you may not ever be in an energetic routine of pausing to slow down in the activity itself to say to a teammate, for example, how are you? What's your name? How about that? Mm-hmm. How are you? Who are you? What brought you here? What are you excited about on this sports team that we're playing or dance troupe that we're in, right? You may be so focused as a kid that you have to go to dance, do the dance, leave, and then go home and do the homework. And when you're done the homework, you've got to go to baseball practice. You're constantly moving from one thing to the next that in the activity itself, you don't even have time to look up to see the teammate.
Yeah. And I think of some kids who might see those teammates out someplace else, out of context, and not even recognize them.
Totally.
Or be able to wave, and the parent goes, "Who's that?" And the child says, "Oh, they've been on my baseball team for 5 years," or hockey team for 5 years. And, "Oh yeah, who is he?" Or ask a question about him, and your child goes, "Well, I don't know. I just play hockey with him."
Right.
So there's we have to be careful that we're keeping our children so busy that they don't understand what a connection is, what caring is, what empathy is, what all of the beautiful things that life gives us when we truly are connected to somebody, because that is what is the opposite of loneliness. Mm-hmm. We have to work on those things in order to abate loneliness.
Yeah. And, this is a really cool opportunity to point out the opposite, that when you do take the time to potentially get to know someone and learn about them as a person, right? Interact with them enough to see, do I like this person? Am I feeling this vibe, if you want to word it that way? When a parent says, "Oh, who's that?" you might actually be able to turn to your parent and go, "You know what? That's Jason. We play baseball together, and I just play baseball with him." Mm-hmm. Right? Where it's I know enough about him that I don't want to know more. That he needs to be at an arm's distance because he's not the type of person I want to make more of a connection with, right? Mm-hmm. That's a healthy assessment that person likely would contribute more to the feeling of loneliness than anything else.
Thank you, Kelly. Can we talk a little bit about avoiding and the fact that some parents are going to teach their children to avoid being rejected? Mm-hmm. And so instead of being rejected, let's just keep you busy. Mm-hmm. And if we teach them that, then we become adults that do the very same thing. We can do that our entire lives, even married to somebody. I can't afford for you as my partner to reject me. So I'm just not going to give you the opportunity to hurt me. So I'm going to keep my distance from you.
Yeah, and that can look physical in the sense that I keep myself busy and at work for 12 hours, and I hit the gym on the way home, and then I do groceries on the way home from the gym. And I'm picking healthy things, by the way. Work,
Yeah.
gym, buying healthy groceries, coming home and thinking I'm doing life right because I'm contributing to all these wonderful things, when in fact the routine itself is what is keeping me from risking rejection connecting to my partner, where I don't want to be at home to have an uncomfortable conversation of conflict or disagreement, where I don't want to pick up where we left off when we couldn't decide where to go on our vacation because we don't like to vacation the same way, right? Like, what are you avoiding? Where conflict potentially can bring you closer together if you actually spent the time to work through things to discover, oh, this doesn't have to be lonely.
You taught me that. You are one of the key people in my life that taught me that conflict can actually bring closeness and can bring connection. When you taught me, and when I was able to practice other skills that I was also learning, to sit in conflict with somebody and be a better listener and a better communicator and a better person to check in with myself and with you. And because there was this ability to create more of a process that was healthier, I learned that by doing that and stepping into the conflict with you, that I actually had a better connection with you. And as a result, I felt no loneliness.
Yeah, the other person gets a chance to learn about your needs when you actually sit in conflict and show up honestly. Now, we're talking about being busy and avoiding, right?
Right.
So let's
Yeah.
come back to these examples.
Yeah, I think they're wonderful. And we want to talk about them in regards to what we do with children. Or if you're listening to this and you don't have children and you go back to your own childhood, think about how you were raised and what you did and what beliefs you may have adopted by watching parents or how parents raised you.
And I will say, how about the opposite as well? Maybe you weren't busy in childhood. Maybe there was experiences of rejection in childhood and teenage years, and then you got busy. And you instinctively, and I want to compliment you here if this is you, you intuitively, instinctively became busy in order to avoid the pain. Right? Because even though it is actually the cause of your suffering at this point, or a source of your suffering, it was actually a very instinctive measure to avoid something painful.
Yeah, that's really good. And now I wonder if those very same people who at least are creating some relationships might sit there and go, "Wow, I am busy. I have been avoidant, but maybe if I step out of my avoidance and my fear of rejection, maybe I can actually still stay busy, pick somebody, and try in a healthy process to see if they're open to a deeper connection."
Yeah, and now you're just fun busy. Or now you're just like career successful busy, but then also fulfilled when the busyness actually can be set aside.
Oh, I like that. And now we're also asking patrons to sit here and think, what do I value then? Because there are different types of things that they can learn through this conversation. Maybe they're sitting there and going, well, wait now, do I actually value busy? Do I value avoidance? Do I value connection? Do I value what I'm really learning in book club, or if I'm in it, or whatever level of Patreon you're in? Are you just here on a surface level, or are you actually using the tools and noticing, yeah, I'm kind of really killing it here. I had a 10 out of 10 feeling loneliness in my life. And with these tools, I've gone down to a 7 or a 9.5. And that's good.
So one of my forms of busyness about 2 years ago, I put a book tracker at the back of my agenda before we went digital. And I was like so excited to write the title of the book and the image that I'd created after I'd completed a book. And it was like, it ended up becoming this obsession of how many books I could get through in the year. And I mean, I picked all really fun stuff, things that I was very interested in. I don't read a lot of fiction. I read nonfiction, business stuff, personality, things like that. But I got to a point, especially because I put it on Audible because I could read faster at 1.5 or 2 times the speed, right? Like I was super productive and super efficient. At one point, I remember like just having this deer in the headlight look of like information overload and sensory overload as well, where I was like, why the fuck am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? Even better of a question, right? Like, I'm never going to hold up that agenda and be like, look, Karen, look, patrons. Like, it was just, it was for me. And what ended up happening was I was reading these books on, ironically, productivity and how you can go deeper into business. And there were great activities in the book that I was like, I'll get back to it. I'm going to flag that. I'll get back to it. And I'd binge another book. And I was so busy that I couldn't actually deep dive into the things that I was telling myself and I knew mattered to me. And so I had to step back and be like, okay, busy is not healthy right now, right? The more books that I'm reading, the less I'm actually getting done because the focus was on quantity over actual quality of what I'm accomplishing. And so I canceled my Audible subscription because I was like, this addiction needs to stop first and foremost. And now can I go back and revisit the tools that I actually said I want to accomplish? And I'm saying this because all of you are listening from a different age and stage in your life, right? We have people here who are in their 20s who are starting their careers. We have people here in their 60s who are finishing their careers, but are also beginning the career of retirement and trying to figure out what the hell that looks like for yourselves, right? And some of you are like, I hate twiddling my thumbs. And some of you are like, I've been waiting my entire life to twiddle my thumbs, right? And so there's this big range of intentions with what you want your time to look like. And we're asking you, regardless of what it ends up looking like in terms of a schedule that's packed or isn't, what is the quality of connection in all of that? And are you creating loneliness in your retirement by staying busy? Are you creating fulfillment in retirement by getting even busier, right? Like, because it can look completely different for everyone, and you can all be fulfilled or all be in the same state of loneliness and being like, it looks like no one has the answer.
I like your point that it's going to be an individual assessment and measurement for each person to determine what loneliness is for them and if they experience it or if they're avoidant. Okay, Kelly, you've made some wonderful points and you've given us lots of good things to think about. We're going to wrap it up for today, and our third show is going to be on defensiveness.
Because it's Wednesday, and why not?
True.